Hello students, welcome to the answer writing program. In December month, we are discussing GS1 and today's topic is from the modern Indian history, and we will be covering two questions from these two topics and one question from the current affair. Let's take an overview of all the three questions. The first question is related to moderates and extremists. The second question is related to the economic policies of Britishers who led to the Indian economy or who transformed the Indian economy into the colonial economy. And the third question, which is current affair based question, it is about the regulation of OTT platforms in India. So let's start with the first question. The first question says, unlike popular opinion, it was not the failure but the success of the moderates that paved the path for the emergence of extremists. So this is the statement given in the question, that the popular opinion says that moderates were the failures, or whatever their ideologies or the methods in the Indian freedom struggle or for their acceptance of the ideas in front of the Britishers, they were fail. But the statement is saying that unlike this opinion, actually it was a success of moderates that paved the path for the extremist ideas or the ideologies to grow. So this is the statement, and the keyword is, and the directive word is, do you agree? If the statement based question is there and the keyword is do you agree, it means you have to take a stand. Take a stand either in favor or against this statement. So if your answer is in favor of the statement, it means you have to write that yes, the moderates have done these things, that is why they paved the way for the extremist ideas to grow or the extremists to grow for their emergence. And if you are against this statement, so what you can write? You can do that the moderates have failed in their demands from the Britishers to accept them. So that is why extremists take a different direction, radical approach for their assertiveness. So that is why extremists grow, because moderates were failure in their process. So these way you can take a stand either in favor or against. So let's start with the introduction. If you are taking the favor of the stand, then what you can do? You can write the definition of what the moderates are and what the extremists are. So what you can do is, moderates, early nationalist leader who advocated for the constitutional agitation, or they were inclined towards the liberal policies, and their major phase was 1885 to 1907. Mainly in this particular period they were active, and this emergence of the moderates marked the beginning of the organized or the national movement in India. You can quote some examples also of moderates like Firoz Shah Mehta, Dadabhai Naoroji, etc. And then you can write that on the other hand, extremists believe in the agitation, protest, strikes to make Britishers accept their demand. You can again put some examples like Lokmanya Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal, or Aurobindo Ghosh, Lala Lajpat Rai. And if you are taking the stand against this statement, so what you can write? You can write that the peaceful methods, that is 3 P's, prayers, protest and petition, the methods used by the moderates were not effective in making Britishers accept their demand. So some politically conscious people were get disillusioned and frustrated from the way the moderates were dealing with the Britishers. So they go with the more politically radical political assertiveness to accept their demands, to make the Britishers accept their demands. So this way you can write the introduction. Then comes the body part. In body, you have to write about, in our answer, what we are doing, we are taking in the favor of this statement. So that is why we are going towards the successes of the moderates. That how, what moderates have done, so this led to the extremists to grow. So the very first thing is the economic critique. Moderates economically criticize the government, like how they have exploited the natural resources of India and how they have their economic policies exploited the Britishers, exploited the Indian interest in favor of the Britishers' interest. Example, you can quote the example of Dadabhai Naoroji drain theory, which make aware people about the ill or the strategized concerns of the Britishers. So due to all these policies, the economic critique about the detrimental impact of the British policies in India have laid the foundation of the extremists to grow. Now they can participate, how to make Britishers to accept their demand. Next is, moderates come up with the constitutional or the legislative reform. They were in favor of the democratic self-government. They wanted to increase their political stature. They wanted to raise the platform where they can voices their concern. This can be visible seen in the transformation, what they wanted in the transformation of the councils in the Indian Council Act of 1892. And this shows that the Britishers accepted their demand. It means it shows the moderates' political influence. And when there is some strong background about that, yes, the Indians can politically influence the Britishers, this raises the foundation stone, or this raises the emergence of the extremists as well. Next is administrative reforms. The moderates were focused on the Indianization of the civil services. They wanted to increase the expenditure on the welfare of Indians, and they also raised the demand to reduce the emoluments of the British officials. These were also known as the home charges. So these all were favor in the educated Indian middle class. Next is growth of press. Moderates, through the print media, propagated their ideas, how to make the Indian people more aware about what the Britishers are doing in their country. They propagated their ideas, and also they widens up the leadership scope. The extremists not just come up, they stand up, and they are very powerful influence over the people. They cannot do that. There is some background, there is some foundation on which they have to rise up. So the moderates were there who propagated the ideas through the media or through the press that yes, how the Britishers are exploiting them. And when they have made some background, some milieu in that, so that is why extremists also raised up later on, and they can take the stand against the Britishers, and they also propagated their ideas through the press. And this is how they utilize the press in expanding their ideas and garnering the public support. You can quote some example of Bal Gangadhar Tilak about his newspaper Maharata and Kesari. Through this, he propagated his political ideologies. Next is protection of civil rights. Moderates propagated the modern democratic right. The modern democratic rights were spreading throughout the territory. So these modern democratic ideas, which are very integral for the protection of the civil rights. Now the people are aware about their rights also, in very little manner also, but at least they are getting aware through it. And this was very visibly seen when in 1897, B.G. Tilak got arrested due to his speech and one of his publication. Huge outcry was there. People were demanding for their release from all those trials. Now the people know that dissent cannot be the base for the criminal action against B.G. Tilak. So all these were points that paved the way for the emergence of the extremist ideas. Finally, in conclusion, you can write some summary that moderates were the ones that propagated early nationalist ideologies. They were the one who raised or who mobilized the people in a large manner and who organized the nationalistic movement. And then the success of the moderates paved the new generational ideas of the neo-nationalist or the extremist, you can say. Then these extremists took over momentum of the freedom struggle and carry forward this legacy with the more radical approach and more assertiveness for their rights. So this way you can write the conclusion. Let's see the model answer. Model answer, the definition of the moderates, then success of the moderates, how the success of the moderates paved the way for extremists, then finally conclusion. So let's move on to the second question. The economic policies followed by the British led to the transformation of India's economy into the colonial economy. Again, this is a statement that the economic policies followed by the Britishers had transformed the Indian economy into the colonial economy. You need to explain this, means explain in detail that how they had done that, with the special reference to traditional industries and agriculture. What the question is saying, that yes, there were some economic policies, exploitative economic policies, but the question is explicitly asking in two domains: traditional industries and agriculture. So this is the major question. Now you need to write, you need to divide your body into two demands. First, economic policies related to traditional industries, how they were exploitative, and with respect to agriculture. So in introduction, you can write the definition of colonial economy. So you can write the definition of the colonial economy, that the economy whose nature and structure are determined by the needs and the benefits of the ruling country's economy. And you can also use this context that due to rapidly deindustrialization of Indian economy, it has resulted into, or it has transformed the Indian economy to colonial economy. So this way you are setting the context also for the smooth flow towards the body. Next is the body part, impact on the traditional industry. The very first point is deindustrialization of the handicraft industry. The economic or the regressive Britishers' policies in the economic domain, especially in the handicraft industry, that resulted into the deindustrialization of the Indian handicraft industry. What were those economic policies with related to handicraft is, Britishers promoted the cheap British machine-made goods to be imported free of without any tariffs into India. So now there is a stiff competition between the handicraft materials or the handicraft outputs with the cheaper British machine-made goods. So they cannot withstand with the cheaper products. Finally, what they have to do? They have to shut down their handicraft industries, handicraft, very small industries also they have to shut down. And due to repressive East India Company policies, they forced handicrafts people to sell their products at a very low cost. So they cannot earn even the basic cost of the goods what they are providing. So they have to abandon their professions, and they by abandoning the profession from the handicraft industries, they have to move to the agriculture. And when they move to the agriculture, it means they are putting more burden on the agriculture, and there is a overburdening of the agriculture sector. Next is British repressive policies. And what are those repressive policies? One-way free trade policy. It means the Britishers, they are exporting without tariffs, but means India, they have to import. They cannot put any tariff on the import. Means the final products of the Britishers, they see the Indian market, they have to flourish in the Indian market. So that is why there were no tariffs in the imports of the British product in India. But if they want to export their final goods, there are huge tariffs, so they cannot export them. Then this one-way free tariff was imposed after the Charter Act of 1813, rise of imports of the British cheaper products. And the next is, India has made now a net importer from a net exporter. Earlier, India was exporting so many goods to the British, but now finally it ended up into being a net importer. Next is impact of railways. Railways connected hinterland to the port. So the raw material from India, it gets the way from the hinterland to the port and finally exported to the British territory. So it paved the way to export the raw material very freely, which increases the cost of the raw material for the handicraft industry. All the game is of the demand and supply. When the supply of the goods, of the raw material is very less in India because of the excessive exports to the British market. So whatever the left raw material is there, it is high in cost. The domestic handicraft industry cannot afford them. So finally, again, they ended up in shutting up the industries. Next is the European final products. When they are getting imported in India free of cost, like without any tariffs, they paved the way to the hinterlands also, to the remotest corner of India through this railways. With the help of railways, the European products were getting sold in the Indian market. Next is decline of cities. Due to this deindustrialization, decline of cities were there, like you can quote example of Surat, Dhaka, Masulipatam. And due to this deindustrialization, there was a huge migration from urban areas to the rural areas, again putting pressure on the agriculture. Next is impact on agriculture sector. How agriculture sector got impacted due to the repressive economic policies of Britishers? The very first thing is about the land revenue policies, like the permanent settlement system was there, Mahalwadi, Royatwadi. Especially in the permanent settlement system, they were demanding the fixed cost of revenue annually. So the cultivators or also the zamindar, which were the middlemen at that time, they have to pay the fixed amount to the Britishers irrespective of the agricultural productivity on the farms. So they have to take money, the cultivators or the farmers, they have to lend some money from the money lenders and they have to pay it to the Britishers. Otherwise, they have to abandon their farms or abandon their land. So these were the repressive policies for that. And due to this lending of the money from the or the borrowing of the money from the money lenders, they led to the debt trap for the farmers or the cultivators or the peasants. Then next is the commercialization of agriculture. British promoted the cash crops like indigo, cotton, which impacted the food grain production. And when the food grain production is impacting, it is affecting the food security. Peasants or the cultivators, they were forced to grow the cash crops. Next is increased pressure on land. Due to the decline of the cities, due to the deindustrialization and the urban areas, people have to migrate to the rural areas, putting over or burdening the agriculture sector. So rural migration and overburdened agriculture. This was the major cause behind the Indians' poverty during the British rule. So these were the economic policies in handicraft as well as the agriculture. Next, finally, conclusion. You can write the overall summary or the overall negative consequences of the British repressive economic policies with respect to handicraft and agriculture. That just few policies were there which were good, like railways, telegraph, and also these policies were also in favor of the British only. And these overshadowed the detrimental economic impact what the British policies has put on Indian economy. You can also write about the enormous drain of wealth from India to British just because of these economic policies, and how it has put the profound impact on India, which earlier attracted the Europeans due to its richness, has finally led to the penury on the eve of independence when they left the Indian country. So you can write the conclusion about the repressive economic policies. Let's see the model answer about the definition, then impact of the British policies on handicraft and agriculture, and finally conclusion. Let's see the third question. What is the existing framework for the regulation of OTT platforms in India? Also highlight the challenges with the same. So you need to write the regulations with respect to OTT platform and also some challenges. What are the challenges with respect to the regulations or with respect to the OTT? So in introduction, you can write the definition. What are OTT platforms? So the OTT are the service providers which provides the content via internet to the users, bypassing cable and satellite TV services. Content related to audio, video, movies, documentaries, WhatsApp. You can give examples also like WhatsApp, Telegram, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hotstar, Disney, etc. You can give some examples followed by the definition. You can also give the example or some data that how many users are there with respect to OTT, that currently there are 430 million users and they are projected to increase to 500 million users by the end of 2023. So this way you are setting the context that OTT platform is raising so much, means the space they are taking in the digital space, it is so huge. That is why it needs proper regulation. But there is no proper regulation of OTT till now. So let's understand some background with respect to the OTT regulation before moving on to the body part. See, the print media is regulated by the Press Council of India. The films are regulated by CBFC, Central Board for Film Certification. And the advertisements, they are regulated by the Advertisement Standards Council of India, and other some are under the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. So there are regulations on the different media pattern, but there is no proper regulation of the OTT platform. Why there is no proper regulation till now? First thing is, it is a very new platform. So there is some loophole in the regulation also till now. OTT platforms, they are over the internet, the very first thing. It means they are using the internet space. So MeitY can be the agency to regulate that. Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Second is, OTT is providing entertainment and media. So it can be regulated by Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Third thing, some platforms like WhatsApp, FaceTime, Telegram, they are using SMS services, calling services. It means they are using the telecom services. It means they can be under Ministry of Communication or Department of Telecommunication. So due to its multifaceted nature or the characteristics or the structure, it is not properly regulated till now. But they are indirectly regulated by one or the ministry or the other. So the OTT platform is regulated by one or the other ministry indirectly. Like how it is regulated? Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology is a nodal agency, because majorly it is on internet and IT services or the IT enabled services. MeitY promotes the policies with respect to that. Very first thing. But due to its very nature of the media or the entertainment, the content is being regulated by Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. So how two ministries are coinciding with that in regulation? So MeitY has come up with the IT rules 2021. Through these rules, MeitY has given the permission or has given the mandate of regulating the content to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. So this is how MeitY is regulating this, and through this MIB ministry. So what are the OTT regulation mechanism in India? The first thing we discussed that MeitY is a nodal agency or the nodal ministry. In 2022, the central government has updated the IT rules 2021, Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code. So first thing we already discussed that the MIB, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, has an oversight on the content or the material what the OTTs are providing. Next is, there is not a very stringent regulations imposing on the OTT platform. Rather, there will be the co-regulation model or with the self-regulation at the industry level and final oversight at the ministerial level. Then there are some code of ethics which the OTTs have to abide by. Like they cannot see obscenity, they cannot with respect to the child, they cannot interfere with the unity, integrity of India, sovereignty and friendly relations with the neighboring countries or any of the friendly relation with the other nations. So they cannot produce the content with respect to these things. Then there is a proper grievance redressal mechanism. If the user have any issue, they can report to that. Next is, what is the current regulatory framework? There are the different laws which imposes on that, like the IT Act is there, like Indian Penal Code. It can be applicable if wherever possible, and if there is a infringement of the rights of the people, or if there is any criminal activity over there. And also representation or indecent representation of women Prohibition Act 1986 also applies on OTT. There are some proposed regulations. First is broadcasting bill is there by Ministry of Information and Broadcasting to censor the OTT films and series, because this ministry has the mandate for the media and entertainment regulations. Then next is the Digital India bill has also come up. This is an overall bill to digitalize India. It has a component of AI, and also this has a component of OTT platform, that how to do the regulatory oversight on the content of digital platform. Also there is coming the telecommunication bill. Some telecommunication bill has come up maybe in 2022 with respect to, because they are using the services of the telecommunication, like they are using the bandwidth, they are using the SMS services, they are using the calling services, and irrespective of they are using, they are not give in the expansion of the telecommunication services. They do not have any role in expansioning of the telecommunication services, but they are using all these services approximately free of cost. So there is again one telecommunication bill is there which expands its mandate to the OTT platforms as well. And also there is one concern with respect to the telecommunication services. Telecommunication services like telecom operators, they have to abide by the different acts, like they have to abide by the TRAI Act, they have to abide by the Telegraphy Act, Wireless Telegraphy Act, for using the services for the telecom operators. Again, these OTT platforms have bypassed all these laws. Instead, they are using everything else. Next is the challenges in the OTT regulation. The very first thing is indirect oversight under MeitY. There is no direct regulation, there is no direct ministry which regulate this domain, the OTT platform. There is a very limited compliance. What is this? There is a huge digital space. There are so much content on the digital media. There can be the limited compliance in that. There can be the overlook for the compliance. Like if there is a line or argument written over there that if you have any query, that you can call on this number, but that proper guideline is not visible. So these are some compliance issues. Next is revenue impact on the telecom providers. We have discussed that they are using all the telecom services, but they are not giving any revenue for that. Then balancing freedom of speech. There is also a challenge with respect to the OTT regulation, that if we put the stringent regulations on the OTT, the freedom of the speech and expression of that platform is curbed. So we need to find out the balanced approach for that. Next is jurisdictional issues or the foreign entities. Like for example, Netflix is not Indian and some of the content is also not Indian. So what if the user has the grudges or the grievances related to the foreign company or the foreign movie or the foreign content? Again, their compliance with the Indian or the domestic laws, it's a concern related to that. Finally, conclusion, you can write some way forward that there is a need, it's a high time, because the users are growing in the OTT platform. We need to go for the effective regulation. Why? We need to come up with some hybrid model where all the stakeholders, there could be the self-regulation, there can be the extrajudicial support for that. Again, for the balanced content oversight, so as to balance the right to freedom of expression. Then next comes the legislative implementation, that there is a Indian Telecommunication Bill 2022 also there, which expands its mandate to cover OTT platforms also, so that these OTT platforms will also comply with the telecom obligations, or they should have some part in the revenue generation for the telecom services. So this was the answer. Let's see the model answer. The OTT, the definition, current mechanism for the OTT regulation in India, challenges, and finally the conclusion. So this is the December free initiative for answer writing, and we are covering GS1. So you can write your answers here on the portal, and on the YouTube you can see the video discussion, and in that description box you can get your PDF for the model answers. Also, Vajiram and Ravi has started the mains intensive test series for 2024, and it comprises of total 38 tests. Some are the half length tests, some are the full length tests. So be mains ready for 2024 in comprehensive and holistic manner. Do subscribe to this. So this was it for my side. Thank you and have a nice day and keep writing.